I'm glad everybody is getting in their seat, and we're going to be experiencing, our speaker today is Marc Leblanc, who has been here a number of times. He has a new book, which reflects his 500-mile trek across Spain. In addition, Marc has worked with over 1,000 small and medium-sized and large business owners, me included, and has had a really, really successful career. The only one thing that is a little bit of a downer for us is that he left our golden shores and left San Diego and moved back to the coal country in Minneapolis or Minnesota. So, but he's here. Notice it's wintertime and he's here. The sun is shining. So let's give a big inside edge welcome to Marc Leblanc.
Well, it's true. I lived in La Jolla for about 10 years, which isn't a bad place. And about 3 years ago, I made the decision to move back to Minneapolis, and I'm still in therapy. But there, and any opportunity that I have to come back to Southern California, I certainly jump on it. And someone asked me this morning, and this is the 5th time that I've had the honor to be with you. 3rd time in this room and twice in the big room. And somebody asked me this morning, well, why would you come back from Minneapolis? And I said, well, Adrian asked me. And if she asks me again, I will come back again. Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm one of the chosen ones. Every once in a while, I say something good. And I'm not sure where it comes from, but I really hope that something I say is good today. But I'm looking out at, really quite an incredible group, and it really is a testament and an honor to the leaders of the Inside Edge for what they have done and over the years, and to last 25 years in something like this is incredible. So please give it up for the leaders of the Inside Edge. And I know that nothing, or most things that I'm going to share with you today, pale in comparison to the collective wisdom that is assembled in this room. And I always hate it when a speaker stands up and says, split into groups of 2. I mean, it's just not a whole lot of fun. I personally don't like it. I don't know if any of you enjoy that. So one of the first thing I'm going to have you do is split into groups of 2. And so I want you to find a partner, and I'm hoping that it's not somebody you're sitting next to or somebody that you know. Isn't this great? So stand up. This is one of the brightest groups I've ever spoken to. So find somebody that you did not know before this morning. Pair up. Introduce yourself. All right, that. This is a. I'm ready. This is a bright group. In fact, I think it's one of the brightest groups I've spoken to in a long, long time. And I don't say that to all the groups. Actually, I do, but I don't mean it. But today I mean it. So the biggest challenge of the morning for you is one of you needs to be A and one of you needs to be B. So can you figure that out? Okay. No arguing. I mean, this is not complicated stuff. All right. So here's the question. Here's the question, and I want A's to answer it first. When you think about your career or your work, if you had it to do all over again, what would you do differently? What would you do differently? Now, with the hindsight of wisdom, and what would you do different? If you had it to do all over again, what would you do differently? I'm going to give each of you about 1 minute to answer. So A's answer it for a minute and then automatically switch to B's. Go for it. All right, if you haven't switched, please switch and give the B's an opportunity to answer. All right, second question. Did any of you hear some good ideas from your partner? No? A few, okay. Second question. Again, when you think about your career or, the level of success that you've had in whatever profession that you have been involved with, what is one thing that you tried, maybe early on in your career, that ended up working better than you thought it would? What is one thing that you tried from a marketing perspective or a focus perspective or a business development perspective? What is one thing that you tried that ended up working better than you thought it would? Let's give the B's an opportunity to go first and then automatically switch to the A's. All right, 30 more seconds. All right. I'm ready. Give yourself and each other a round of applause. All right, go ahead and take your seats. So many reasons why you gather here at the Inside Edge to support each other, both personally and professionally, hopefully to maybe achieve a different or a higher level of success, or to move through transition, or to be happier, and whatever it is that you want to do. Let me give you 3 reasons why you're not going to make it. And I don't know if you have something to write with and something to write on, but again, every once in a while I say something good, and you just never know when it's coming. But there are 3 reasons why people do not get... There are 3 reasons why people do not get where they want to go. Number 1, a lack of clarity. Number 2, a lack of congruency. And number 3, a lack of consistency. Number 1, a lack of clarity. Number 2, a lack of congruency. And number 3, a lack of consistency. I've had the good fortune to work one-on-one with over 1,000 small business owners and independent professionals, many just like yourself, working solo, people who sell their time and their talent, their experience and their expertise. And here's one of the things that I've learned along the way. It is never due to a lack of commitment. Every single person I've encountered over my coaching career, I've done 500 presentations like this, and I've given over 140 weekend programs like Patrick went to called the Achiever Circle, and traveled all over the world. It is never due to a lack of commitment. Every single person I've encountered was committed to making something great happen in their life or their work. It is also not due to a lack of conviction, because every single person I've encountered along the way inherently believed that they had something inside of them, a message, a talent, a skill, an ability, something that could impact the life or work or career of another person, either in a one-on-one setting, in a team setting, in a presentation, in a book, but every one of you have commitment and you have conviction in spades. But what we often fail to have is really a sense of clarity around where we're going and what we're going to do that, and a sense of congruency along the way, and ultimately, I think, truly a sense of consistency. And if I could get you to understand anything, one of the great pearls of wisdom, at least in my mind, that I like to share is that I believe consistency trumps commitment. Consistency trumps commitment, unless you make a commitment to consistency. Unless you make a commitment to consistency. And we ride the roller coaster of ups and downs, with our level of happiness, with our level of achievement, with our level of success, however you define it. And so here's the big question that I would pose to you this morning, and some of you may be able to answer it just like that. Some of you may need to think about it and ponder it for a while, but it's not a question you haven't heard before, but what is it you want? I mean, really, what is it that you want? I was 21 years old when I discovered my dream to be a professional speaker. And I found out that you could speak and get paid. Now, I'm one of the lucky ones. I found out at an early age, and I found a group called the National Speakers Association, and I attended the Minnesota chapter of the National Speakers Association, and I walked into this room of about 20 speakers of a variety of levels, and it was like a switch went off in my head and in my heart, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I went home for Christmas a couple of weeks later, and I told my dad, I said, I now know what I want to do. And he said, what's that? And I said, I want to be a professional speaker. And he looked at me and he said, can you make any money doing that? And I said, I don't know, but I met this group called the Minnesota Speakers Association, and they're all rich. Now, little did I know then what I know today. And they weren't all rich. And, but here's what I discovered for me, that there was nothing greater than being a professional speaker. Where could a young guy at 21 enter a career or a path or a profession with really nothing? Except raising my hand and saying, I want to be a professional speaker. I'm from a small town in northern Minnesota, Fertile, Minnesota, population 868. And where $7 an hour is a meaningful career position. I never graduated from college. I wrote, I never played for the Minnesota Vikings. I waited a long time before I wrote my first book, and some of you know it's small, I didn't have that much to say. So I really did nothing great in my life to establish my credibility as a professional speaker. But yet I did it, and I kept going because that's what I wanted. And nothing has ever deterred me from that. In fact, I think I quit 1,000 times along the way, but fortunately I recommitted myself 1,001. And if I had not, I would not have had the honor and the privilege of certainly being with you here today for the 5th time, and having the privilege of serving as the president of the National Speakers Association several years ago, and doing what I think the good work that I feel that I've been called to do and compelled to do. So I ask you, what is it that you really want? And can you answer that with an amazing degree of clarity? An amazing degree of clarity. And once you can, and think of it this way, the power is in knowing, and second, the magic is in how you frame it. The magic is in how you frame what you want. And a lot of people get a little bit nervous when I talk about this, but it boils down to numbers. It boils down to numbers. And one of the most important things that I talk about would be what? This is the audience interaction part of the program. What do you think the most important thing that I talk about is? And I heard somebody say choice over here. Achieving your dream. Keeping your dream in mind. Money. Money. Okay? And not money from a greed perspective, or not money from the perspective that more is always better, because I'm certain if we took a little survey here, we have some very successful people monetarily in this room, but didn't always guarantee happiness. So it's not about money from a greed perspective or that more is always better. But if the money side of your business or your practice is not clear, everything else is muddy. If the money side of your practice or your business or your career is not clear, everything else is muddy. And once you get crystal clear about the money side or the financial side of not only your work but of your house, everything else becomes easier. And I feel something good about to come. Are you ready? The more focused you are, the easier everything becomes. The more focused you are, the easier everything becomes, and you tend to get what you focus on. You tend to get what you focus on. So if you're not clear about who you are and what you want, then your focus is typically just chaos. And I've met a lot of people who do very good focusing on chaos. and they are all over the board. And they all are all over the board. And, you know, we all ride that roller coaster of the ups and downs. And I want you to understand that focus is nothing more than making decisions and having the discipline to see them through. Focus is nothing more than making decisions and having the discipline to see them through. Because even though I identified I want to be a professional speaker, it would still take me 10 years before I understood just what that decision was all about. And I stumbled and struggled and skinned my knees and had many bad presentations and don't even ask me how or why I kept going, other than the grace of God and the fact that I did keep going. And pretty soon, after about 10 years, my evaluation started to get a little bit better. And I was a little bit surprised by this, and I was telling a good friend of mine who's a professional speaker, about 15 years older than I am, I said, you know, my evaluations are starting to get a little bit better. I don't know what's going on. And he said, well, he looked at me and he said, you know, you're not the 21-year-old anymore that wanted to be a professional speaker. You're now 31. And you've been a small business owner for the last 10 years. And not many people have been a small business owner for 10 years at the age of 30, 31, 32. I owned a creative graphics printing and mailing company for 10 years while I was pursuing my dream to be a professional speaker. And so all of a sudden, somehow by osmosis and the gift of time, I began to be a little bit more credible and to be taken a little bit more seriously. So again, I'm going to remind you, what is it that you want? And can you write it down? Can you frame it in terms of numbers? How many times do you want to do whatever it is that you want to do? How many prospects do you need to engage every 30 days? In fact, there's a phrase that I would like you to jot down. Every 30 days. I think the secret to your success lies in the phrase, every 30 days. If you are operating on the assumption of an annual goal and the calendar year, stop it. There is nothing good about the calendar year and the annual goal. Nothing. I want you to just throw away the concept of the annual goal and the calendar year, because it will do more to discourage you than it will to empower you. Because think about this. If you are off track today from what you wanted 11 months ago, what's the likelihood that you're going to finish this year on a positive? Okay? And most likely, and I know no one in here is doing this, but there's a lot of people outside of this room that have fallen into the trap. A lot of people fall into the trap, and it actually starts around Labor Day. You know, they wake up on Labor Day weekend or the week after, and they look at their goals that they wanted to, you know, set out on January 1st, 8 months earlier, and They realize that there's probably no good way that they're going to achieve their goals for this year. And then something happens. Even when we don't realize it, it's like we mentally shut off. We turn that switch off and we think, yes, you know, I'm still gonna work hard here for the next 3 or 4 months. You know, I'm really gonna do my best, but I'm going to take the next couple months and get ready to get ready for 2012. So there's a lot of people, again, nobody in this room, that now are getting ready to get ready for 2012. And you don't need to work on your website in the next 4 weeks. You don't need to go to the post office and buy a stamp. You don't need to organize your office. Those are all things that you can do all throughout the year. But time and time and time again, I come across people who are getting ready to get ready. They get to December 31st or they get to the holidays, and it's like they put on 7 pounds and they celebrate what they did or did not do, which is a novel concept. And they remember the words, enjoy the journey. And they get to January 1st, and they make one more time what I call the GC. The GC, the Great Commitment. The Great Commitment. And the cycle gets repeated all over again. And this is a great time of the year to talk about this. I mean, how long do New Year's resolutions usually last? 2 days? 4 days? 2 weeks? Somebody said to me not long ago, until my next meal. And there are some inherent flaws in the goal-setting process of which, you know, I won't get too far into today. But I think we make that great commitment, you know, typically once a year. And we all would agree that in most cases, New Year's resolutions don't last. And quite frankly, here's what you're good at. Here's what we're all good at. We are all good at letting go of whatever did or did not happen in the previous year. On January 1st, we're good at letting it go. So I want you to think about something. Imagine if you could let go of what did or did not happen every 30 days. Why have one New Year's celebration a year when you can have 12? That's the good news. That's the good news. So guess what today is? Happy freaking New Year. Okay? Because for me and for so many of my clients, we do celebrate the new year every 30 days. And tomorrow is the start of a new 12-month rolling period. And you will have a much greater likelihood, in fact, jot that phrase down, greater likelihood. You will have a much greater likelihood of accomplishing whatever it is you wanted in a 12-month calendar year, in a 12-month rolling period, if you do what I refer to as resetting your counters to 0 every 30 days. Resetting your counters to 0 every 30 days. We do it very well every 365 days, but now imagine if you could adopt that attitude and that mindset on an every 30-day cycle. I think you would have a much greater likelihood of accomplishing whatever it is that you wanted. And I want to give you a little focus. How many of you would like to be a little bit more focused on a daily basis? Okay. Again, there are a lot of people outside this room that would like that too. I'm going to give you an exercise, and I'm going to use money as our measurement today. But most people have a number in mind that they'd like to, earn in a year. Whatever that is, okay? I don't care if it's $100,000, $50,000, $300,000, and let's use your business or your practice gross revenues if you want, and just divide it by 12. Just divide it by 12. So whatever your number is, turn it into a monthly number. And jot that down, jot that number down. Get it out of your head. And on. Now, you can write it small, or you can write it in code so the person next to you doesn't see it. But get what I call your monthly optimistic number out of your head and in black and white in front of you. Again, I don't care what the number is. I was working with a coaching client about 13 years ago in Minneapolis, and I drove away. We were talking about optimistic numbers and different things like that and goals, and the importance of having an every 30-day number. And I drove away from that coaching session, and I thought, I should do some of this crap that I want my clients to do. And so I pulled into a restaurant in Minneapolis, and I took out a pad of paper and a pen, and I took a deep breath and thought, what would my monthly optimistic number be? Doesn't take long. Doesn't take long. In fact, take a deep breath. Let it out. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. And I jotted it down. And what do you think happened in that moment that I wrote that number down? I recommitted myself? Clarity? Focus? What? I was scared to death. Because all of my career I'd operated with an annual goal. And the annual goal lets you off the hook. The annual goal lets you off the hook. But all of a sudden, when I had this every 30-day number staring me, all of a sudden I had to realize that I have to think a little bit differently. I have to act a little bit differently. I have to make my decisions a little bit differently. And I was scared to death. But I hung in with that number, and the language that I want you to use is your monthly optimistic number. And I don't remember if it was the second month or the third month, but all of a sudden I did it. I booked it or sold that number, my optimistic number. And I learned another powerful concept over the next few months and years, and that is once you create a model for your business or your practice that you can be excited about, and you have a monthly optimistic number, then it's simply a matter of execution and replication so that you can be at or near that number. How often? Every 30 days. Every 30 days. And if you adopt the mindset or the attitude of the every 30 days and the rolling 12-month period, you will go a long way towards resetting your counters to zero every 30 days. And the most important thing, even though we have some time left, I don't leave this for the end, the most important thing that you will ever hear come from my lips, most important thing. Are you ready? No plus or minus carryover. No plus or minus carryover. You start all over again. So for those of you that are thinking you've got to wait another 31 days to start all over again, guess what? You got 24 hours. If I can get you to walk out of here today, I mean, not right now. I mean, wait till the program is done. But if I can get you to walk out of this program this morning and say, I'm going to treat tonight like I would December 31st. And tomorrow is just simply the first day of a new 12-month rolling period. And if you could take the same attitude, the same sense of renewal that you will have on January 1st, if you could have that tomorrow morning on December 1st. It's not easy. It's not easy. But if you get into the habit of execution and replication and focusing on your number, and I know that you said you want to be a little bit more focused on a daily basis, so here's an exercise I have for you. It's called the AM/PM questions. In the morning, your AM question is, What am I doing today to book my optimistic number of X? What am I doing today to book my optimistic number of X? At the end of the day, your PM question is, what did I do today to book my optimistic number of X? What did I do today to book my optimistic number of X? And I just want you to ask yourself those two questions every day for the next 30 days. And I will guarantee you that if you will ask those questions, AM in the morning, PM in the evening, not that complicated, you will begin to make your decisions differently. I had a client come into my office one day, and he was struggling a bit, and about the same age as I am, and he looked at me and he said, "Mark, I'm really struggling." He said, he goes, "I like you, I like the work that we're doing," but he said, "I'm really struggling, and I just can't quite get that momentum ball turning." And then he said something that set me back on my heels and struck horror or fear into my heart. And he looked at me and he said, "I thought I would have been further along in my career. I thought I would have been further along in my life at this point." And his eyes started to mist over a bit, and in that moment, there's really nothing that I could say. So I just let that sit for a moment, and finally I just said, "Well, you know, take a deep breath and let's think about it." I said, do you want to just cancel this meeting today, and let's go have a beer, drink or something? And he said, no, I just needed to tell you that. And so I said, refresh my memory. I said, what's your optimistic number? And he said, well, I want to generate $25,000 every 30 days. And I said, great. And I said, when you got up this morning and you asked the AM question, what am I doing today to book my optimistic number of $25,000, what did you jot down? And he looked at me and he said, was that the question? And I said, well, yes. And he said, I think I've been asking myself a different question. What question have you been asking? He said, I get up in the morning, I go to my office, I turn on my computer, I think about you. And he said, I asked the AM question, what am I doing today? That's a different question. What am I doing today will cause you to create a to-do list of tasks, obligations, responsibilities, commitments, both business and personal. It will help you create this laundry list. And I know you. You may be unique in God's eyes. You are not in mine. You will have every good intention of doing something from a marketing or business development perspective once you get through that to-do list. And then you check your email throughout the day, and then you get on Facebook and social media, And at the end of the day, how many of you really feel like doing something positive and constructive to move you forward in the direction of your dream? What am I doing today to book my optimistic number of X? And at the end of the day, what did I do today to book my optimistic number of X? Don't screw with the questions. Here is my definition of success, and I think this is kind of good. You can write it down. You can quote me on it. You can put it in your newsletters, blog, Success is not determined by your results. Success is determined by your momentum. Success is determined by your momentum. And your momentum is determined by how you feel. And how you feel is determined by the consistent daily application of the very best you have within you, your personal best. Success is not determined by your results. Success is determined by your momentum. And your momentum is determined by how you feel, and how you feel is determined by the consistent daily application of the best you have within you, your personal best. Take a deep breath. We're going to close in just a minute or two. I will stick around this morning and shake hands and give hugs and sign books. I wrote a little book called Growing Your Business. Could somebody hold it up? I know a number of you already have that. And there are two ways that you can have that book for free. One is, if you will jot this down, my website, growingyourbusiness.com. growingyourbusiness.com. You can download the ebook version of my book, Growing Your Business, for free. Okay? Go for it. It's right on the home page. Download Growing Your Business for free. So please, if you want some of the rules and tips and tests and tweaks and insights and additional pearls, please go today and download that book for free. If you want the physical copy, I brought about 15 copies of those today. They normally sell for $8, but I wrote another book based on my 500-mile walk across northern Spain, the Camino de Santiago. Terry is holding it up. Terry was my co-author on Never Be the Same. The last time I was here, I talked about my trek across Spain. It's being made somewhat famous right now in a movie titled The Way, starring Martin Sheen. How many of you have seen The Way? A very, very good movie, and all shot on location. And so I'd highly recommend that if you get a chance, if you're a moviegoer, go see The Way with Martin Sheen. And that's the Camino de Santiago. But I walked the 500 miles about 3 years ago. My life has never been the same. It's been the absolute best 3 years of my life, of my work, for a variety of reasons, but certainly that was one of those. But if you buy a copy of Never Be the Same, $20, you get a free copy of Growing Your Business. So it's just 2 for $20. I've got 15 sets. And the proceeds from the books go to support a foundation I started called YES, or Young Entrepreneurs Succeed. And our sole purpose is to give $3,000 grants to entrepreneurs under 30. And in September, we gave three $3,000 grants to 3 young people, and it will undoubtedly create a turning point on their path. A banker gave me a $3,000 loan when I was 22 years old, and I used half of it to go to my first NSA convention in San Francisco. So you never, ever know what can happen. And I want you to raise your hand and repeat after me. It is all about I. Say it again. It is all about I. And that is, it is all about having the kind of impact and influence you want to have with the people that you serve best. Thank you, Adrian, for inviting me back here. If you invite me back again, I will come back again. And thank you.
Wow. Great job, Mark. Great job.